Dragon Age and its mythology is dying, and Dragon Age Veilguard may be the next biggest flop in the industry because of that, as it stumbles to its October 31st release date. And I think this is a pivotal point within the gaming industry, because this is a time where a lot of games are failing on the hill of progressive political activism. This is one of the bannermen of a lot of the political activist philosophy that we have seen established within the gaming industry. Of course, Dragon Age, the franchise itself, always had political leanings when it came out to the overall orientation of its characters, but it was during a time where it wasn't the focal point of the gaming industry. Gameplay and actually environment and storytelling was the focal point. Nowadays, in the modern age of gaming, political leanings and overall focus on gender or racial politics have become the headliner for any game that's released. And of course, with the multitude of failures this past year, that headlining attitude for a lot of these political issues is tarnished. And now we have the ultimate headliner coming out in a tarnished year of multiple failures. And this is why this game is critical now in the gaming environment, where we'll see the real value of these political progressive attitudes in gaming when it comes to a highly successful franchise like Dragon Age. Because when you look at the massive failures over these past few years, you're looking at games like Concord, where there are new IPs that are focused on these DEI goals. So it is kind of reasonable to see them fail, because you're looking at a new property in its entirety. The same thing could be said for Dustborn, as well as Flintlock, the Siege of Dawn. These are massive failures for this political ideology that has established itself in the gaming industry. And I think seeing these massive failures happen consecutively throughout the year is giving a bit of hesitancy to a lot of firms, a lot of developers within the industry, as the actual viability of following this DEI philosophy in the development of their video games. So when you look at Dragon Age, the Veilguard, you look at a successful franchise, and you look at a franchise that was already steeped in this philosophy, and you're hoping for its success to progressively push on that ideology. And I think that's the essential thing that we're seeing with Dragon Age Veilguard, as it's being supported by the gaming industry in general with its October 29th to 31st release globally. And I think that is the situation where we're seeing multiple platforms come out in support of the developers of this game, of the people that are producing this game, and their philosophy and their overall position on these political, gendered, and racial issues. And I think that's what we see with Dragon Age Veilguard, as a person that is a poster boy of this ideology at the director's helm of this game. So the overwhelming positivity that we're seeing in the market for social media gaming journalists is probably predicated on this philosophy succeeding in the gaming industry. And I think that's why we're seeing this push for this game, as well as a legendary successful franchise that had multiple sequels that reached critical mass and success to the popular audience. And now you're seeing some kind of speculation around this game itself, where it's kind of stumbling to the finish line, as it were. As you can see, Dragon Age Veilguard is still outside of Steam's top 50 bestsellers with just over 2 weeks until its release, and it suggests that the interest is not as strong as people hoped for this game. And I think this is just showing people's backing away from this political ideology in modern day gaming status quo that has inundated the space. I think this game itself would probably still get numbers if it was in a different environment, but now you're looking at this game, you're suspecting like, okay, this might not even reach Baldur's Gate's numbers. Of course, Baldur's Gates is one of the biggest success in the past 5 years, so you wouldn't expect it to reach those numbers, but it has a long history of massive success, so you would hope it would reach those numbers. But looking at some of the Steam data and charts, this game might not even reach those numbers, and it may even fall below a lot of these critical moderate successes that have come out recently. And I think that's a talk around this game, where you see the numbers are just not as stable as what we're seeing with a lot of these other properties that are coming out. It is a little bit higher as one of the most wish-listed games. It's at 38, so it's not completely an abomination. I know Concord was like stuck at 831, so it makes sense. It barely had 600 people playing the game upon its release, so this is a game that won't reach Concord levels. There's going to be definitely more than 6,000 people playing this game, at least on Steam, and maybe globally 12 to 15,000. For this game to be successful, it has to at least reach Metaphor Refantasio level. If you don't know, that's a game from Atlas that is focused on the turn-based style play, and I think it kind of reaches the same audience that we're looking for Dragon Age. Its numbers are pretty high, where that game reached around 85,000 at an all-time peak, and I think if Dragon Age can reach this number, it may have overall moderate success where it can survive and make another game. But if it doesn't go past the 50,000 mark, at least on Steam, that is telling me that there are fewer players interested in this game than its past predecessors, and that is kind of an alarming thing, because Dragon Age has always had a dedicated fan base trying to track the story. But if you look at the development of the game itself, it has already pushed away those diehard fans by changing a lot of the mechanics of the Dragon Age series, in particular removing the nasty blood magic class in the game. They feel it's too evil to have this type of class, and they don't want their characters to be portrayed that way because all of them are LGBTQ representative icons in the game. And that's just like, what are you talking about? This is a game where we're supposed to choose good and evil. Now you're predicating the entire fantasy world based on the gendered and romance options of the characters, where you don't feel like it's right to do that because every character is an LGBTQ representative. And that's just kind of annoying to see that in the game, where anyone that is LGBTQ representative can't have an evil, nasty side. What is this type of gaming and fantasy are you trying to create when Dragon Age has always been predicated on choosing 2, 3, 4 options that may be good or evil? So it's kind of annoying to the fan base to have that option taken away based on modern day politics. And I think that's the case with a lot of the romance options, where all characters are pansexual, so they all have similar gender ideology, so there's no variance or uniqueness to them at all. So it kind of just makes the characters plain and copy paste. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing with the overall development of this game, where it's a game being shepherded by people that are guided by their actual modern day political ideology, rather than making a good story for the gamers to lose themselves in. No, they want these gamers trapped in the real world, and you can see that with the character customization, where the overall chest bust sizes for the characters are limited because they want to keep that gender equality between the different groups of people, because they feel like it's insensitive to actually have bigger chest sizes, because some people are unable to do that because they are a different identity and racial and bone structure. It's just weird things that we're seeing in the development of the game that are just kind of taking people out of the fantasy. And I think that is the end result of what we're seeing with the overall development of the game, where we just see a game being built around a political philosophy rather than actually built around the Dragon Age mythology. And that is the thing that is kind of pulling people away from this game, and I think ultimately that's going to lead to the failure of this game. So it's not going to be a massive Concord-like failure. It's not going to have only 600 people playing. It's not going to only have 6,000 people playing. I think it's still a massive failure if it reaches under 20,000 people playing, because that is just showing me they probably put in over $300 million in the production of this game. They put in $100 million marketing. This game probably needs to reach $450 million to actually break even and actually make some money, especially if they've been in development for almost 10 years with this game. So this game needs to make a lot of money. So having barely 25,000 people playing, even 30,000 people playing, is a big loss for this game, and they need to sell 1 million quickly. For me, this game probably has to sell 5, 6, 7 million to actually make some money. So this is a dire situation for BioWare, and BioWare might be in the graveyard of developers if this game doesn't reach greater heights than other properties out there. But that is just a situation in the gaming market in general, where we're just not seeing quality games be developed anymore because we just don't have quality developers anymore. And that is a result of just terrible marketing, production, and overall hiring processes that we've been seeing in the gaming industry, that has led to multiple failures that we see now on Steam, where we see every DEI infested game barely reaching peaks of 3,000 players active in the game at its all-time peak, and reaching lows of 9 people playing the game at its all-time lows. And this is a terrible situation if you are a devotee to the progressive political philosophy that is in the gaming industry. But you tell me what you think about the situation. What do you think about Dragon Age becoming a massive flop this year, and maybe the critical flop for the progressive ideology in the gaming industry? You leave your comments, tell me what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.